Imagine a crowded space station, where laughter turns cruel, mocking a humble beekeeper and his 3 silent dragon brides. Yet in the next heartbeat, that laughter dies, replaced by shock. When proof written in light reveals a truth that could shatter everything the galaxy thought it knew. If you're new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's jump into the story. The docking hall of Amber Hive Nexus was alive with sound and movement. Conveyor belts clattered, shuttles hissed as they released pressure, and travelers from 100 worlds hurried past each other in a rush of color and noise. In the middle of that wide space stood 3 Draovian women, their scales shimmering softly in the bright station lights. They were tall, elegant, and still as carved statues, wings folded close to their bodies like folded banners. Each carried a leather book strapped to her side, a jeweled clasp glinting when she moved. Beside them walked Milo Fern, a beekeeper from a quiet colony world. He wore a simple work jacket, patched at the elbow, and boots dusted with pollen stains. To him, the docking hall was no more intimidating than a barn at harvest time. But he knew eyes were on him, sharp and mocking. The crowd had already noticed the strange sight. Whispers rolled through the air like small waves. "Look at those gowns," someone muttered, as if lizards know fashion. Laughter followed, light but cruel. Milo did not react. He guided his companions forward toward the customs desk, where Brub Glocks waited. Glocks was a clerk made of translucent gel, with orange light rippling through his body whenever he felt suspicious. 3 arms extended toward the beekeeper's datapad. "Milo Fern," the translator unit said in a flat voice, "you are aware that Drauvians cannot speak Galactic Standard. How do you expect to register a bonding ceremony without their verbal consent?" The hall grew quieter. People leaned closer. Even a maintenance drone paused its cleaning to record. Milo kept his jaw tight. "They understand everything," he said, "and the documents are complete." Behind him, the tallest Dravian tilted her horned head. Her golden eyes swept the hall, noticing exits, cameras, guards. The copper-scaled woman released a thin mist of warm vapor that vanished in seconds. The silver-scaled one tapped a soft rhythm on her thigh with her claws, like a drummer marking time. To outsiders, these gestures meant nothing. To Milo, who had spent months learning their habits, each detail was a signal of thought, patience, and calculation. Before the clerk could answer, a new figure entered the scene. Dargan Voyle, the colonial prefect, moved through the crowd in his shimmering suit that shifted colors with each step. His violet skin glowed with confidence. "Milo Fern," said with a smile that hid sharpness, "you filed a bonding request with 3 mute creatures? You risk deportation, and your farm will be reclaimed. Very convenient for the colony." Milo's stomach tightened. Voyle had been circling his land for months. Beneath his apiary fields lay deposits of rare cerathite crystal, a resource that powered ships across the sector. If Milo was removed, Voyle would claim the property and the fortune that came with it. Brub Glocks flickered orange again. "Mr. Fern, confirm occupation?" Milo's voice stayed steady. "Beekeeper, Orchard Haven Colony. Largest honey producer in 3 systems. These women are my business partners as well as my brides." That statement broke the room open. Laughter erupted in waves. A traitor slapped his knees. A ship's AI projected a sneer. "Drovians cannot even count," it mocked. "They are fighters, not thinkers, only fit for guarding doors." The jeers swelled, echoing off the metal walls. It sounded like the buzzing of hornets to Milo. The silver-scaled woman's tail flicked once, sharp as a whip crack. The copper-scaled one narrowed her eyes, nostrils glowing faintly. The tallest remained motionless, but her claws traced the edge of her journal, as if waiting for the right moment. Milo placed a hand gently on her arm, above the delicate wing membrane. It was not only comfort, it was a promise. "I see you. I stand with you." He turned back to the clerk. "All filings are lawful. The ceremony is scheduled for 1500. Voyle smirked. "Not for long. I have already filed a complaint. Without spoken consent, your claim will collapse within the hour." The crowd pushed closer, eager for the spectacle. Recorders flashed. Some travelers whispered bets on how quickly the human would lose. Then the unexpected happened. The emerald-black Drauvian reached into a hidden pocket and revealed a small golden device. She pressed a sequence of buttons, and a ribbon of light unfolded in the air. Letters and seals glowed across the hall in dozens of languages. The crowd gasped. Milo leaned closer. "A certificate," he said, voice clear enough for all to hear. "Class 7 Academy graduate, trained in xenolinguistics and interspecies communication." Shock rippled through the docking hall. The Academy was the most elite in the galaxy. The idea that a Drauvian had graduated with such skills challenged everything people thought they knew. The silver-scaled woman stepped forward, projecting her own light script. Advanced mathematics and quantum trade certification. The copper one followed, her display showing credentials in xenobiology and environmental science. Laughter dissolved into whispers. The tide had turned, though no one yet knew where it would end. Prefect Voile's confident smile faltered. He stepped back once, only a half step, but enough to show unease. The hall smelled different now, less like mockery and more like fear of what comes after certainty breaks. The story was changing, and everyone knew it. The docking hall of Amber Hive Nexus had never been so still. One moment the air was filled with cruel laughter, the next it was hushed silence. All eyes turned toward the emerald-black Drauvian as her golden device painted shimmering letters into the open air. The light shifted between languages. Galactic Standard, Centurion glyphs, Foxian metal script, and even the glowing fractal patterns of the Luminos. Each symbol carried the same message, stamped with the seal of the Imperial Academy. Milo Fern stood close beside her, his breath steady. He read the glowing marks carefully. "Graduate of the Imperial Academy, certified xenolinguist," he said aloud, so the crowd could hear. His words echoed against steel walls, breaking through the disbelief hanging in the air. A ripple moved through the onlookers. Beings who had mocked seconds earlier leaned forward now, eyes wide. Some recorded every flicker of light, knowing this moment might shift galactic understanding forever. Then the silver-scaled Drauvian stepped forward. Her tail swished once as she activated her own device. Another projection appeared above her head, filled with spiraling symbols and numerical notations. "Certification in advanced mathematics," Milo translated, and quantum economics. The copper-scaled woman followed. Her projection bloomed like a flower made of firelight. Lines of text glowed with diagrams of flora, honeycombs, and molecular chains. Credential in xenobiology and agricultural sciences, Milo said, voice growing stronger. The hall erupted in murmurs. Creatures from across the stars whispered to one another, their expressions shifting from mockery to doubt, then to a slow and growing awe. The prefect, Dargan Voyle, forced a laugh. Forgeries, he insisted, though his voice carried less power. Dravians cannot even form words in Galactic Standard. How could they pass exams at the most prestigious academy? His words sounded thin. Doubt had already taken root. From the back of the crowd, a new voice called out, "Let me see those certificates." Heads turned as Professor Caldeer, an Altarian scholar known for his keen eye and unmatched study of interspecies education, stepped forward. His 4 eyes blinked in different rhythms, scanning each projection with care. The silence deepened as Caldeer studied the glowing records. Finally, his feathered crest rose in surprise. "These are genuine," he announced. "The quantum signatures are authentic. They were issued directly from the Academy Board." Shock spread like fire through the room. Beings who moments earlier had laughed now stared in silence. The laughter in the docking hall was gone, replaced by the heavy weight of realization. Prefect Voyle sputtered, trying to recover. "Impossible! Their bodies are not designed for this. They are fighters, nothing more." But the Emerald Draovian opened her leather-bound book. With deliberate care, she revealed page after page of writing. Symbols from 12 languages filled the sheets in neat, steady script. Comparative notes lined the margins. Diagrams of vocal cords and phonetic shifts crossed each page. Professor Caldeer leaned closer, his lower eyes narrowing. This is extraordinary," he whispered. "A complete analysis of galactic languages. This is doctoral-level research." Milo looked at the crowd. "They are not silent because they are unable," he said firmly. "They are silent because they choose. They see and record more than anyone realizes." The words hung in the air, powerful as the light still shining above the Draovians' heads. The laughter from earlier seemed cruel now, almost shameful. Even the mechanical janitor lowered its optic lens, as if embarrassed to have joined in the mockery. For the first time, the 3 Draovians shifted their posture. No longer standing in quiet deference, they formed a perfect triangle, wings slightly unfurled, journals glowing in the soft projection light. Their silence no longer looked like weakness. It looked like command. A traitor whispered to her companion, "If this is true, everything we believed about Draovians is wrong." Milo heard her words. He knew they would spread quickly. Dargan Voyle tried one last attempt. He pointed at the beekeeper with shaking hands. "This proves nothing. They still cannot give spoken consent. Without words, your ceremony means nothing." But his voice no longer carried strength. The crowd had seen too much. The silver Draovian tapped her journal with one claw. The copper one exhaled a soft stream of glowing vapor. And the emerald one closed her book with a snap that echoed like thunder. The proof was written in light for all to see. In that moment, the balance shifted. The beekeeper and his companions were no longer the joke of the docking hall. They were the revelation. Milo stood taller. He felt the tide turning. Still, he knew more trials would come. The prefect would not surrender so easily. But for now, in the glare of truth, the laughter had been silenced. The docking hall was still buzzing from the proof written in light when the sound of engines filled the air. A sleek enforcement vessel slid into position at the far end of the bay. Its hull gleamed with the insignia of the Federation Guard. The crowd shifted, uneasy, as the boarding ramp lowered with a heavy clang. Out stepped Marshal Lyra Halden, her cybernetic arm reflecting the station's bright lights. 2 security drones hovered at her side, their scanners sweeping across the gathered crowd. But it was the figure who followed that caused the prefect, Dargan Voyle, to pale to a sickly lavender. Inspector Naomi Kestrel, of the Federation Bureau of Investigations, entered with calm authority, her augmented eyes flickering as they recorded every detail. The crowd parted, silence falling as quickly as a curtain. Everyone knew Inspector Kestrel's reputation. She had dismantled entire cartels and exposed corrupt governors. If she was here, something serious was unfolding. Commissioner Voyle, her voice carried across the hall like steel wrapped in silk. How fortunate to find you here. I have been reviewing certain irregularities in your reports from Orchard Haven Colony. Voyle tried to smile, but failed. Inspector, this is all a misunderstanding. I was merely ensuring this human farmer is not committing fraud. Kestrel's gaze shifted to Milo Fern and the 3 Dravovian women beside him. Mr. Fern, I received a message suggesting my presence might be required. The message was written in perfect Galactic Standard, encoded with a Dravovian diplomatic cipher I did not know existed. She paused, letting the words sink in. Curious, isn't it? Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The notion that Dravovians had mastered such advanced communication was staggering. The copper-scaled woman drummed her claws softly against her book, a sound like rain on glass. The silver-scaled one flicked her tail in amusement. The emerald one remained motionless, her golden eyes fixed on Voile, watching every twitch of his hands. "This is absurd!" Voile barked, desperation cracking his tone. "They cannot speak. They cannot consent. This so-called bonding is nothing more than a trick." Before Kestrel could reply, Professor Caldeer stepped forward again. His 4 eyes blinked in rapid rhythm. I have analyzed their writing patterns. Each document carries unique characteristics that prove individual authorship. No one forged these, Marshal Halden added, her voice sharp. And Commissioner, we intercepted a transmission sent under your cipher. It contained orders to hire mercenaries to sabotage Mr. Fern's bee colonies. That is destruction of agricultural resources, a Class 2 felony. The hall exploded in murmurs. The prefect's scheme was unraveling before everyone's eyes. Voile's voice cracked. "You cannot prove it was me." Inspector Kestrel raised her hand, her datapad projecting the encrypted message. Complete with his personal signature code. We can prove enough. Yet even as his lies collapsed, Voyle tried one last, desperate move. From beneath his cloak, he pulled a concealed plasma weapon. The crowd gasped, but the Dravovians were faster. The copper-scaled woman moved with blinding speed, her tail whipping the weapon from his grasp. The silver one snapped restraints around his wrists before he could stumble. The emerald one stood tall, wings half unfurled, her gaze holding him like a predator pinning its prey. Marshal Halden stepped forward, her drones closing in. Dargan Voyle, you are under arrest for attempted assault, conspiracy, and multiple charges of fraud. The crowd erupted, not with laughter this time, but with shock and awe. Many lifted their recorders higher, eager to capture history in the making. As Voyle was dragged away, still shouting about mute lizards and false ceremonies, Inspector Kestrel turned back to the beekeeper and his companions. Your situation will proceed. The law requires consent, yes, but it does not limit consent to spoken words alone. Written testimony is valid, especially when verified in 17 languages. The Emerald Dravian finally moved. She opened her journal to a marked page and held it out. The writing glowed faintly under the station lights. Statements of intent, declarations of partnership, and promises of unity, all signed in their unique scripts. Kestrel studied it, then nodded. Legally binding, more than sufficient. And yet the hall still held its breath. Whispers darted from being to being. If they could write so brilliantly, why had they never spoken? Doubt and curiosity clashed like storm clouds, waiting to break. Milo placed his hand over the Emerald Woman's arm again, steady and protective. They can speak, he said softly. I've heard them. They chose silence to watch how the galaxy judged them. Every sneer, every laugh, it was part of their study. The storm in the hall shifted. Tension crackled in the air. The laughter that once mocked now seemed distant, like thunder rolling away. Then in the hush, the silver Drauvian tapped her journal closed. The copper one exhaled a thin ribbon of glowing mist, and the emerald one looked out over the crowd. The golden shine in her eyes promised that the silence would not last much longer. The voices that could tame a storm were about to be heard. The station bells chimed softly through amber hive nexus, marking the hour that none would forget. The chapel, a neutral hall designed to welcome countless cultures, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Word had spread faster than any shuttle could fly. Travelers, merchants, scholars, and even skeptics crowded in, eager to witness the ceremony of the beekeeper and the 3 Drauvian women. Inside the chapel, honey-colored ribbons wound around the pillars, shimmering alongside scales preserved in crystal. The air carried the sweet scent of pollen mixed with Drauvian incense, creating an atmosphere that felt both earthly and otherworldly. Milo Fern stood at the altar, simple in his worn jacket, yet steady as the earth beneath his fields. Beside him, the 3 Drauvians moved with a grace that silenced the room. Their gowns shimmered with fibers that glowed like living fire, their wings folded in reverence, and their golden eyes fixed forward. The officiant, a neutral AI whose voice had been programmed with tones of fairness, came to life in the center of the room. Participants and witnesses, it announced, we gather to verify consent and complete the bonding ceremony. The AI turned first to Milo. Do you enter this union freely and willingly? Milo's voice was clear. I do, more than willingly, with all my heart. Then the AI turned to the Emerald Draovian. Her golden eyes caught the chapel's light as she spoke. The sound was soft, yet strong, filled with years of silence, breaking at last. I am Dr. Serenia Windharp, and I do. For in his kindness, I found a voice beyond words. The room froze. Some recorders sparked as their owners gripped them too tightly. Silence broke into stunned whispers. Draovians could speak, not with hisses, but with perfect galactic standard. The silver-scaled woman stepped forward. Her voice carried a melodic hum, like strings played by unseen hands. I am Professor Liza Stormvale, and I've studied countless formulas, but his loyalty is proof greater than numbers. Then came the copper one, her smile warm as sunlight. I am Dr. Kalira Flameborn, and in his patience, I discovered strength, and in his bees, I discovered joy. The AI processed the words. Consent verified. The crowd, once mocking, now leaned forward, captivated. According to Dravean custom, each bride presented a gift. Dr. Serenia revealed a translator device she had built herself, able to understand not only sound, but color, scent, and even vibration. With this, she said, we will never lose understanding. Professor Liza offered a crystalline matrix filled with glowing streams of data. A plan for our honey trade, she explained. A path to grow without harm, to profit while preserving. Dr. Kalira stepped forward last, holding a glass terrarium where tiny glowing bees moved among crystalline flowers. This is our future, she said. A union of earth and Draovia, producing honey that heals. The crowd gasped, some with awe, some with greed, but all with respect. Then came Milo's turn. He reached into his pocket and brought forth 4 rings, simple yet shining. Each one had been crafted from a shard of serethite crystal, set with a fragment of crystallized honey from his first hive. He placed the first ring onto Serenia's claw. You showed me that silence can hold wisdom. He slid the second onto Lisa's. You proved that logic and compassion are not enemies. The third went onto Kalira's hand. You taught me that growth is sweetest when shared. And finally, he placed the fourth on his own finger. You reminded me that love does not divide, it multiplies. The AI's voice resonated through the chamber. By the authority of the Federation, I declare this union recognized. Seal it according to your traditions. The Draovians lifted their heads and breathed streams of harmless flame, weaving green, silver, and copper fire above the altar. The colors twisted together, forming a glowing crown of light. Milo leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently to each of theirs in turn. The crowd erupted in applause, tentacles waving, wings flapping, and crystals chiming. Outside, the story had already spread across the galactic net. The mute dragons were no longer mute. They were doctors, professors, and innovators. They were voices that had tamed the storm and now burned bright in firelight. Marshal Lyra Heldon raised her blast in salute. Inspector Kestrel, her gaze softer than before, said, "This is only the beginning." And Milo Fern, beekeeper turned husband to 3 of the galaxy's most brilliant minds, knew she was right. Together, they had faced laughter, corruption, and disbelief. Now, they stood as partners, bound by rings of honey and firelight, ready to shape a future that no one could do.